All right, welcome to Talking About Sports. We, believe it or not, we are at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. We're just on the side here. We're outside enjoying the
patio, baby.
Hot and steamy weather. Everyone in short sleeves except for the best dressed man in all of Charlotte on the cover of Level 21?
Level 21.
Level 21 magazine cover, man.
Hey, we got to get him to come out in a polo shirt one time. We got to get him in a polo.
No, the W. He's got the W.
Well, yeah, that's what we need. Take the jacket off, be loose a little bit.
No, y'all need to wear suits.
That's what we do. We need a clothing deal from William Wilson Clothing. I'll be the first one to go for that. William Wilson, Reggie Walker, and wearing his West Virginia Mountaineer shirt, Mountaineer Mike Freer. All right, guys, breaking this week, the United States Supreme Court ruled following, I guess, legal precedent to follow the Constitution in the 10th Amendment, meaning if something is not in the Constitution, the 10th Amendment states that it goes to the states to determine what's going on. Now, the court decided that the federal government, meaning Congress, cannot legislate gambling in all 50 states. They want to leave it to individual states to determine whether the individual states in each respective state wants to have gambling in their state, like at Nevada, I guess Atlantic City, certain states, Mississippi, and there are some places that are in like riverboats that go offshore. So gambling is a big deal. Some of the sports leagues, NHL, NBA, maybe NASCAR, NFL, some are already invested in DraftKings, Mountaineer Mike. They also know that this is a potential revenue stream. There's also a downside to it. Mountaineer Mike, from the fantasy side, that's already kind of been integrated. What do you see from this decision going down?
Well, it's like you just said, another revenue stream. It's going to be a insane amount of money that's going to, over years, develop with not just the fantasy leagues, but now you're going to see the networks for these pregame shows, or suddenly people are going to watch it more and more. Ratings are going to go up for all these networks, these games, because gambling is involved. It's just how it's going to be. The leagues are going to get their cut. I think, for me, it's fine. I have no problem with it on the professional sports level.
Jimmy the Greek's not here to see this.
But
did you going to see a lot of Jimmy the Greeks now appearing on pregame shows.
Did you just say that gambling is going to save the studio shows and sports television?
It's going to revive them.
Wow.
Why am I watching a pregame show if I have a guy up there, a Jimmy the Greek, on the NFL countdown, for lack of a better, I can't think of any other ones at the moment.
More people got action down on the game than just want to know who wants to win.
I don't disagree with that, but the concept lately has been the pregame type shows, people don't watch them as much. So
I think they're going to start watching
asking the
more.
question is gambling going to save them?
I think there's I agree with Mike. I think there's a chance it's going to save them, but it's not going to save them in the format we're used to seeing them.
Right.
There's going to be a little bit about sports, about the games, and a whole lot about the lines.
But you're also going to see, here's what you're going to see in the pregame shows too. You're going to see, and Reggie knows this because when we used to work in TV, work in the college sports or whatever, you're going to see on the bottom line crawl, you're going to see the point spreads. You're going to see the over-unders. People are going to watch it. They're going to see for the people the lines changing from 11:30 on a Sunday to 12:55 on a Sunday.
Late inactive or a late
Absolutely.
scratch, a guy who's been deemed inactive or he can't go, he's injured or whatever.
Don't be surprised to see a live report from a Vegas hotel.
This is going to change so much more.
Yeah.
This is so superficial. The stuff you guys talk about ain't crap compared to what's really going to happen. This is going to change the way people draft. It's going to change the way coaches play their players. It's going to change all this kind of stuff.
I don't think it's going to have any impact on that.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Because,
how so?
Because there's going to be so much money involved in this. The league's going to get involved in certain things. They're going to have a vested interest. If you let the league get involved in the gambling, they're going to have a vested interest in who's winning it. So now,
they've always had that.
So now, but not to this point. Not to this point. Now you've legalized it. Now stuff that was under the radar, that's kind of like a good old boy network kind of thing, will not just be in your face. They're going to change. There'll be a lot of rule changes, and there's going to be a whole lot of other stuff going to involve with that, all the ancillary stuff. The sports game shows and all this, they're going to be just that much more. Those are annoying to me. Watching stuff about spreads and who's got this, the fantasy league stuff, I don't watch it because of that. That's the most annoying thing on earth to me, because it's annoying watching games with people who I'm watching the Cowboys game and with another Cowboys player, or if I'm watching the Redskins or whoever,
that's not annoying.
And I'm watching with somebody and we pull for the same team, our team scores, and they start complaining because the wrong guy scored. That's annoying to me.
Right, now, in addition to that being annoying, Reggie, as a player, is it possible, because it's happened already in the past, Whereas if you remember John Williams, former
Yep.
Tulane basketball player, there was a beast Boston College scambling with point shaving in basketball.
Yep.
Talk
about it.
Rod Williams.
Come on.
What about? Could it be a corner like a Daryl Worley? Just to bring a name up, not because he went to West Virginia.
Nice call
All
there.
of a sudden, he slips, and a wide receiver goes deep for a touchdown, and he just, by the way, told him, "Hey, I got action down on the game. I'm going to slip. Tell your quarterback to go deep next play."
Well, I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I don't know if it'll go as far enough to where he'll tell the other guy that. But listen, there is a chance, and I talked to somebody about this the other day, and I've
happened
heard
in the longest
I've
yard.
heard opinions on this too. Is that, you know, who's to say a player all of a sudden, let's use a basketball player for example, easier. You know, in the middle of the third quarter, he realizes XYZ player is probably not going to come back, right? A key player for their team. He says, "Hey, I need to go use the bathroom." Grabs his phone while he's in the locker room, lays down a bet, handles his business, goes back to the bench, knowing that their best player is not going to play in the fourth quarter. That could happen. I'm not suggesting that it will, but it could. I'm not much of a gambler, and my thing with gambling, my issue, I shouldn't say issue, but the main reason I really don't get into it, besides the fact that it's just, I'm not going to put my money on somebody else's performance. If I can't control it, I'm not going to bet on it. But the other piece of it is, at the end of the day, what does it matter if somebody wins by 2 points or 3? I just want my team to win.
Yeah, see, that's
Why I can't get caught up in the point spreads. I get that people enjoy it, and that's their prerogative. If you ask me how I feel about this ruling, I'm indifferent because I'm not a gambler.
I don't think the situation that you brought up, I don't think would happen. I'm not saying it'll never happen. That's silly. I don't think at the professional level it's a problem or susceptible to a problem because the money these guys get is way too much for anybody to grow.
Wait, did you see the longest yard?
No.
Remember Burt Reynolds?
I saw them.
But that's make believe show. But what you're saying? At what point when have you ever seen a person that makes so much money they stop being greedy?
Well, here's the thing: the amount of money.
That's hard to argue.
No, the problem is the amount of money that somebody who wants to pay Reggie to have an impact on the game somehow, to take a dive or whatever, is so much that the minute he pays that money and he goes and makes a bet to cover that, that's going to signal a red flag with any casino or anything.
And
ask Pete Rose. That's all I'm saying.
But the guy Rogers Cromartie, he's got all these kids and he needs child support money, and he can make a.
And that's
quick 10
Antonio.
million.
That's Cromartie, not Rogers Cromartie. Two different guys.
Yeah. And let's face it. Not everyone. Most of the guys in the league more guys are making closer to the league minimum than making these max contracts. So there's a lot of these guys out here that are making $400,000 a year, or what's it, $430? I think is the league minimum now.
That's a little more than that. That's about $480, I think.
Yeah, by the time they pay taxes, their accountants, their mama's houses, all this stuff, they don't have a whole lot of money that they're bringing home.
Yeah.
Like, I deal with these guys on a daily basis. They're guys that won't buy a suit till they got 3 games in for the season because they don't have any money to spend it.
Now,
so you get somebody like this, and they absolutely will go out there and take a gamble.
And while I completely understand what you're both saying, to your point, you got to remember too, in the NFL, that money's not guaranteed. They can get cut tomorrow. So if all of a sudden there's a league minimum guy struggling, and somebody rolls up and says, "Look, man, I'm about to put $100,000 on this game. If you do what I need you to do, I'm gonna hit for $5 million."
Well,
and I'll slide you $350,000. That's more than a game.
And I'm not saying it, like, again, I'm not saying it's impossible that such a situation would ever happen. That's silly. It's happened in the past. That's what we say. What I'm saying is the person that's making the league minimum, I'm the guy who wants to fix the game, for example. Am I going to go to you and entrust my money to give you? What kind of impact are you going to have on the game?
If you're a starter, I can have a lot of impact.
If you're the starter, that's
right.
We'll see. I don't know.
But you could be a special teams guy. You're the gunner on special teams. You just happen to miss that tackle.
I will say this though. Can I make a point societally though? As we sit here and talk about this, the sad part about it is the first place we went to is, would a player on the field do something bad? And the next piece of the conversation would be, it's scary because somebody may bet their house, cars, and everything else and be standing outside butt naked with no clothes and no money, and the wife pull up talking about what happened. Well, that basketball game last night cost us everything. That's those are the two scary pieces of this.
Absolutely.
That we have to look at, but unfortunately, those are the first things we have to look at. That's
when you
scary.
brought that example, I thought Allen Iverson throwing his wife outside the house with no clothes on. That's the first thing I thought of. But
The issue, I'll tell you where the
I
problem
can't
could really
confirm
be.
that. I never saw video.
Here's what you want to follow is how it affects the colleges. Because the points that we were just bringing up for the professional ranks could absolutely happen in the college ranks.
Yeah.
Is my worry.
And when it happens in the college ranks, that's going to affect who's getting drafted.
yeah, because they're not getting paid in college.
Which is going
Breaking news.
to
Guys
affect
wanna get paid,
the league,
right?
the
Well,
professional league.
they're not getting paid, but tell the NFL and the NBA to allow them to not have to go to college.
John Halpin.
You know, so
What now?
at the end of the day, as long as we keep everybody
he's
wants to pound the NCAA.
He's saying Mountaineer Mike, DraftKings and FanDuels and all these are getting ready to cash in and make a big score. So if you had some action down or wanted to do a Martha Stewart and invest some stock into these companies, and you knew that the court was leaning one way, you could have dropped some money on one of the stock, and you could have really made a killing.
I actually disagree with that. I think who's going to make a killing, and DraftKings, those types of companies will do okay
all over the country.
Yeah, but I think local sports books. I'm gonna tell you right now, Atlantic City about to be revived. Vegas is already what it is, and every city in every state.
There's a
If
Macau
they
in
can,
China. That's a big gambling area.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, Charlotte may try to build something that allows them,
I'm all for
that
it.
allows people to go put up money.
Yeah.
Every city's gonna build something locally.
You've got Cherokee.
Well,
right
yeah,
there.
but that's
So-
a couple hours away.
Yeah.
in the middle of
But-
nowhere.
Charlotte gonna build something here.
Reggie,
Somebody gonna build
I can
something
see
here.
you and me hosting at the sports book. We could
But-
talk sports with anybody.
But I think there's something that people aren't looking at. That door, what they use as a ruling to make this okay, saying if it's not in the Constitution, then it's up to the states to decide it.
States still got to allow it.
The next thing that's going to happen is marijuana.
But here's
Well, that was the first thing I thought of too,
Yeah,
Will.
because
and it
because-
should be up to the individual states. I'm
Right.
not advocating one way or the
Now,
other.
this
for any
is a
issue.
sports show, so I ain't got nothing to say
I'm
about
just saying-
marijuana.
No, but I'm saying
Everything
it. But
should
I'm
be
just-
decided
I don't
by
do
the
politics.
state
But it ties into
legislature or
sports.
popular
It ties
vote.
into
Here's
sports
a-
because now what you're looking at, these guys. I know a lot of guys smoke weed in the off season. A lot of them. All right, so this is going to tie it all in. You're going to start having that opens up a door so these states start legalizing marijuana. Now you got players that's like, hey, the union gets involved. Like, hey, this is legal. If I can smoke a cigarette, why can't I smoke weed? They both legal, and now it's going to start affecting sports.
I bet you that's going to happen sooner than you think, Will. But we're just getting started. I would be all for having the Talking About Sports at the Charlotte Racing Sportsbook any day of the week, as long as they're paying. So we've got Panthers. We got a new owner with the Carolina Panthers. Eastern and Western Conference in the NBA and even in the NHL, believe it or not. Plus, we have the All-Star race this weekend. Will's going to be giving a gold jacket to the winner of the All-Star race, I believe.
Boxing.
Plus there's some boxing news and notes. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This is Talking About Sports. Okay, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Reggie Walker, William Wilson, Mountaineer Mike Freer. The Carolina Panthers are under new management. David Tepper clocked down anywhere between 2.2 and 2.5 bill. He's a part owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have to think he'll be approved by the owners. He's already in the, quote, club, so to speak. Anything new? Reggie, you've been adamant about it from the day that the Carolina Panthers went on sale, is that the first order of business is a new stadium.
I think first of all, before I get into that, shout out to young Tyler Feldman. He's up in Binghamton, New York. He actually fired off a tweet which set the world on fire, saying that the deal was pretty much done. He's got sources close to Tepper or family or something. So he's the one that got the ball rolling way out of New York. So shout out to him. Penn State grad, by the way.
I like getting close to the situation too,
So,
my guy.
with that being said, here's the thing, man. This guy, they're saying Tepper is basically doing an all-cash deal for $2.2 billion plus. If I don't know about y'all, but if I write a check for $2.2 billion, I'm gonna try to find a way to get some of my money back. And
Yes.
one of the first ways of doing that is getting a new stadium, getting new PSL money, getting new parking money, and getting new season ticket money coming
There's
straight
no
to me.
parking money now.
ASAP. And there isn't. That's my point. And so I just think, I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but it's not going to surprise me if that question's not asked sooner rather
You
than
get
later.
a new stadium, let's say, because this has been discussed down around the Carowinds area. You get North and South Carolina. You get Fort Mill, the city of Charlotte, the York County, Mecklenburg County governments
think
all
that's
in
smart.
to make to give them any kind of concessions with roads, infrastructure.
That's the
retractable roof. So and then you get a Super Bowl because that's pretty much the template. As long as you build it, they'll give you a Super Bowl. And so therefore, the county jurisdictions are going to get some of the money back. The owner's going to get money back because he can control revenues, concessions, and parking.
Biggest problem with doing it down there, and here's the thing you got to
It's on 85. There's 77 and 45 right there.
Here's the problem with that.
There's no more to build inside the 277 loop.
I'm not suggesting that there is, but my point is to do it down there because you got to remember what some of the parameters are of getting a Super Bowl. Because that's why teams build new stadiums to get the Super Bowl, you get the revenue. You don't have enough hotel infrastructure down there.
All right, the Charlotte Motor Speedway in that area, as long as they're not jacking up the hotel rates every time they have a race.
But there's still not enough for the Super Bowl. So the reality is going to be they're going to have to do something with the land that they have now. Maybe they rebuild on the same spot, play down at Clemson for a couple of years. Who knows? I don't know what the solution is, but that's an idea because the other thing you have to think about for the city, if they are going to spend the money to give them a new stadium, they got to think about the money they've already spent. All of the hotels that they've added in the city in the last 3 years in anticipation of getting an all-star game, I'm not suggesting they're the same, but when you think about those types of things, the hotel infrastructure is better set up closer to uptown than it would be out there. That's something you have to factor in.
Clemson again. That was a nightmare getting in and out of there.
Well, that logistically,
South Carolina's much better.
Well, that logistically, you want the Super Bowl. The people that come in for the Super Bowl, you want them to be able to get around and move around in your city. You want to generate revenue for your city. All the people that come in, because 90% of people in the stadiums for the Super Bowl don't live in that city.
And by the way, they better finish all the rest of this gold line and all that stuff before the Super Bowl shows up, because just driving around is not going to get it done.
Well, first we got to find out
from a new stadium.
Has Old Boys paid for the stadium they have now? Because remember, the Panthers are one deal. The stadium is a different business.
Yeah, but it's a one. I believe. I believe the dollar figure is the stadium.
The rent
has a deal with the Panthers. I think it's $1 a year until 2023. So it's basically it's
right
in another way sort of controlled by the team, but it's not owned. It's not that. They're not buying the team and the stadium at the same time.
Right, so I'm saying, so Jerry may very well still own the stadium. He just said you could play in my stadium for $1 a year. So it's still, if I still want to own the team, if I'm this guy, I want to own all of it. I just dropped $2 billion. And you're telling me where I can play here. I want my own fingerprint all over. I want William Wilson, my team, to play in a state-of-the-art facility. Because right now the Panthers play in the oldest facility in the league.
Well, a stadium and a team, I would venture to guess if he were buying the stadium and the team, it would have been more than $2.2 billion.
I agree.
It would have probably been closer to $4 billion, is my guess. I could be wrong. At least 3.5. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just throwing that number out there.
You can spend at least $1 billion on the stadium now, the way things go.
Well, they're talking about Kroenke Stadium in L.A. may end up costing about $4 billion when it's all said and done.
Yeah, but it costs
That's insane.
But it costs a lot more to live out there. It costs a lot more to build. It's cheaper to build a stadium here than build it there.
That's why I said it's got to be at least 1.5.
Yeah, I give you that.
In Charlotte.
Yeah, I give you that.
Mike, you got a thought on this?
Well, I agree with these guys. I think the next step is a stadium and to try and secure a Super Bowl. I think new owner will work with the NFL, will work with Goodell, say, what do I have to do to get a Super Bowl here? They'll get the input from the NFL, because I think the NFL wants to be in wants a presence in Charlotte, obviously in the South. It's a big deal for them. That's why they're going to approve this guy, because he's going to keep the team in the Carolinas. That's a big deal. So I think that's just the next step. And I like the fact, listening to him, he sounds like he's going to be a presence in the city, which anybody who's a Hornets fan, that's not always the case with their owner.
To make another point about this, there are reports out there that Tepper's bid was lower than some others. Obviously, he's worth the most money, apparently, than anybody else that was in the bidding process. But this tells you how the league operates. He was already in.
He got the
They'll take less money to not have to expand the boys club.
Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to. They said, you know what? We'll sacrifice $200 or $300 million, but we don't expand who's in the club. We just move a guy around.
You
move the chess piece, baby.
It's still a record sale, too.
Before we go further, William Wilson, we have a Iraq War veteran sitting down on the other side of Reggie. Want to acknowledge all veterans, and you're going into the.
He's actually the executive director of the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame.
That's awesome.
He's the one that started that.
That's great.
Well, I'm glad.
David Brody.
We got to talk to him later in the show, but now as it pertains to the on-field product, with a new ownership, is a new owner going to bring in? He's associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is he going to bring in a new general manager who they may want to, or new team president who may want to bring in a new GM, a new coach, etc. down the line?
I think they'll assess that. It's always a possibility, but I don't think anything's imminent. I think sometimes obviously with what just happened with the Hornets and Mitch Kupchak, he made changes quickly. I don't think that's going to be the case with Tepper. This organization has won, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. They've been on the upswing in terms of consistently winning. So I think he'll let it kind of play itself out maybe for a year or two and then assess if he needs to make major changes.
I agree. It's a little too late in the game to start making wholesale changes like that.
Next offseason, possibly.
Next offseason, we'll see. Well, their success this season, I wouldn't touch anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, it's always. I agree. It's a business decision. You look and see what the value of your product is, what you bring to. It's like when Warren Buffett buys a company, he doesn't. Warren Buffett only buys companies he can keep intact because he knows his effect to that company increases the value of that company.
Correct.
So if you're going to go, like this guy may feel, look, I bring in stability, we bring in a couple more pieces, we keep the coach here, he's already here, he's loved, people love him, we're not going to throw a whole lot of monkey wrenches into the plan, I'm looking big picture down the line. So the next couple of years, because this guy's looking at a multi-year deal, he's looking at decades, not seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So to him, he's going to say, let's evaluate it for a couple of years. I just dropped $2.4 billion on this. I'm not gonna do a big fire sale and I put more money.
Now it comes from the Steeler organization, like you said, and they are one of the most stable franchises in the NFL. They've had the GM for a long time. They rarely make coaching changes. They haven't fired a coach in who knows when. And they end up leaving. I think that plays a role into everything he's going to do down here.
And I think the other point to make is it doesn't matter how deep his pockets are. The NFL has a hard cap. So the whole concept of is he going to come in and spend the money, that only really applies in the NBA because they have a soft cap and paying luxury tax, yada, yada, yada. In the NFL, that doesn't matter because you have a salary floor and you have a cap, and that's it. There is no in between. You can't go above that number no matter what.
Right.
Signing bonuses get adjusted year to year to make it fit and all that. But at the end of the day, you can still only spend a certain amount of money a year. So if people are sitting there going, "Oh, he's worth $11 billion. He's going to come in and throw all kinds of crazy contracts out there," that's just not true because it's not realistic in the way the NFL is set up.
Right, but money cost is money spent. So if you start doing, it may not necessarily be money you put out. If you start making a bunch of moves that could really upset your fan base, affect your season ticket sales, all those kind of things, those are still decisions you made that cost you money.
Well, if you're going to do it the way Jerry Jones did it when he first got the job and he fired Tom Landry, if you're going to do it, you better be right on it. If you're going to make a move like that, you better be right.
Yeah,
and Jerry Jones hasn't been right in a long time.
Yeah, Jerry hasn't been, and I'm a Cowboys fan.
He got the first one right.
On field, no, but off field, look at the Star. That's a great business decision. The new stadium, great business decision. I think by far, Jerry Jones.
Those are great business decisions, but people continue to forget. Jerry spent his own money on all that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He didn't go to the city for money to build that stadium.
Had private investors that paid for the Star, and that's all about Ford and all the other businesses. And he created a town called Frisco, Texas.
But that's how money.
That's how money makes
don't
money.
Spend their own money. They spend your money.
That's right.
It's the OPM contract. I spend OPM construct. You spend other people's money to make your money. That's how that works. And that way, because you start getting the government involved, get the city involved in it, now they start having some say in what you do. They can make decisions like, well, we give you this, but you can't move, you can't do this. Jerry can decide tomorrow to move the Dallas Cowboys to Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
To DeSoto, Texas, if he wants to.
And if he wants to, he can just up and move it, and nobody can say a thing except the ownership. But like you just said earlier, they're the good old boys network. Now, what I'm wondering is this going to be the start of something where it's almost going to be like a NASCAR kind of thing where one owner's got part of 3 or 4 or 5 teams?
No, you can't. He has to sell his stake in the Steelers.
Exactly. Oh, he does?
Yeah, it's absolutely. There's no question.
Yeah, okay.
Which, let's do the math on that, right? So let's just say he spent, and we've heard different reports on what the number is on the Panthers. I'll go with $2.2 billion. He's a 5% owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which means he's getting ready to sell that for probably, I don't know, $150 million, maybe $200 million,
maybe more.
So he just only put $2 billion flat. really came out of his pocket because he's about to get a check back
He's got
for
it.
$200 million. So,
and
oh, by the way, he's worth $11 billion. So he's
Well,
good.
Yeah, and if you really check the numbers at the end, there's an investment group somewhere on the back end of that, whatever. They probably put $1 billion of that in.
Well, he's
probably,
not the sole owner. I
Yeah.
would guess he's not going to be the one guy.
Yeah, he probably put in just enough to be 51%.
Right.
To be the overall.
He's
Exactly.
gonna buy out everybody, but he's going to also be bringing in his own management and ownership team.
Oh, I'm sure.
Some other limited
like I
partners.
said, he owns 51% of it, so he has controlling say-so.
It might be, and it might be more than that. But yeah, he's going to have. Put it this way: he's going to have more than anybody else has.
Yeah, I mean, he could own 48%, but normally you want to get 51% so they can't gang up against you and do
Right.
like the guy at Men's Warehouse.
Right.
All right, we're getting ready to head to a break, but we've got the NBA playoffs to talk about, Eastern and Western Conference. I still got to mention the NHL playoffs in case anybody cares. We got NASCAR. We got the Military Veterans Hall of Fame. Is that what it is, Will?
North Carolina Military Veterans
North Carolina Military.
Hit us up with
Hall of Fame.
questions too.
All right, get us the questions. We're on Twitter. We talk about sports. So we're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This is Talking About Sports.
Lick my lips on this one. Yeah. It's been sunny all week. The weatherman said today's almost gonna be as hot as this beat. Plus the words that I speak. I got out of the shower, hit the barbershop, and got in the seat. They talking about the game from last night and placing bets on who gon' win tonight's fight. I got out of the chair, fresh to death. Look down, check my phone, cause I just got a text. My man's at the car wash, so it's gonna be on tonight. There's a party, and it's gonna be tight. I ain't gotta be told twice. Went and got me some rest, cause it's gonna be one of those nights. Can already see it. Text again, said you saw one I slept on and a best friend. When the sun's bright and the wind don't blow, you really hope that tomorrow comes slow. Yeah, I ain't got a care in the world, just got paid. Got the slick shades and the fresh fade. We gon' have a good time, everybody keep it tight. Get right, keep it moving all night. Yeah, get my dance on. Yeah, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, let's go. Check. It's almost 10, the sun's gone, but it's still hot, and my phone's been ringing non-stop. My dog pulled up in the coupe, push the button and there's air where there used to be a sunroof. Yeah, we're stunting hard, switching lanes on the highway. Get to the spot and the line's down the block. Not a problem when you flow like this. Dap the bouncer while the valet park the whips. The DJ's dropping those hits, and these chicks look like.
All right, we're here with Talking About Sports at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson. And William Wilson, would you please introduce our distinguished guest?
This is David Brody. He's the executive director of the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame. He's the brains and the man behind the whole concept, the whole idea of this. And instead of me just telling you all the wonderful things he's done leading up to this point for years, like the walk from Fort Bragg, walking from Fort Bragg to Charlotte and all this stuff, we better let him tell him.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for having me. This is such
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I am David Brody. I'm the founder, CEO of the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And we started this Hall of Fame because we have Hall of Fame for all kinds of sports. Basketball, football, NASCAR, but we don't have one for veterans. If it hadn't been for veterans, we would not have a Hall of Fame. So therefore, to start this Hall of Fame, it is a way to honor our veterans for their service and their sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy today. To be able to enjoy sports, to be able to talk about sports. So without guys like William Wilson, myself, and many other veterans, over 800,000 veterans in the state of North Carolina, we need to honor those guys for their sacrifice and service.
I bet you everybody, David, knows a veteran who played college sports or who played pro ball. One of my close professional wrestling friends, Chuck Smith, was in the Special Forces. After he wrestled in college, went to pro wrestling, but he was one of his proudest things. And I see pictures. I've been to his house. He's got stuff where he's jumping out of planes, or he's got military stories. And I bet that there's military people all throughout history, from the Revolutionary War, World War II, whatever, of military people that have connections to Pope, Cherry Point, Fort Bragg. They're at Camp Lejeune. My dad was a Korean War veteran at Camp Lejeune. Right. So, I mean, North Carolina has a large connection to the United States military throughout history.
It does. And I give you a good example. You remember Pat Tillman used to play safety for the Arizona Cardinals.
And Arizona
He
State.
he gave up his professional football career to join the military.
Yeah.
So therefore, when he got deployed over into combat, therefore lost his life.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you that without the military and our veterans and guys that are serving today, this sports would not be here if it weren't for guys such as Pat Tillman.
Military keeps us safe and keeps us being able to sit here. Let's just make no mistake about that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And what a lot of people
Freedom's not free.
and what a lot of people don't realize, less than 1% of the population serves in the military. So we literally have less than 1% protecting 99.3%. So, and that's why, like, we'll have conversations and you hear people say, oh, you know, when Cam was doing all this crazy stuff, no, he's a kid. No, Cam's 25 years old. Like, but he's just a kid. No, that 17-year-old kid, an 18-year-old kid just finished basic training that's now he's in Fallujah, or he's on top of a submarine, or he's on an aircraft carrier, or he's in Bahrain, or he's at wherever, and he's got literally the lives of hundreds of people in his hand. The only thing between those guys and death is him and an M16 or a 9mm. That's a kid. A 25-year-old man has been doing something his whole life, does something stupid. That's not a child. Right now, all of our freedoms are being protected by 17, 18, and 19-year-olds.
Now, tell us what is going on with the Hall of Fame, kind of what started it, where you are now, and what's going to be going on in the, not to mention this weekend,
Yes.
And beyond.
Okay. Well, the vision came to me back to actually when I was watching the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the in August 2016. So we wanted to find a way to honor our veterans more than what we're doing now, because their legacies and our legacies still need to be told long after we're gone. So what this guy has been, why he's being inducted on Saturday, is that it allowed his legacy to live on long after he's gone. Mm-hmm. So this Saturday we have our first classes being inducted, 22 veterans, all the way from World War II up until the current conflicts. And it's going to take place this Saturday at the Crown Plaza Hotel off of Tavola Road. And we are both doing both living and deceased veterans, Medal of Honor recipients. If you hear some of these guys' story of how they fought in Vietnam or when they attacked the beaches at Normandy, these stories are amazing. If we don't capture these stories now, where will they end up? One or two places. It's either in the graveyard or a box in the attic. So that's no place to educate no one. And we want to educate our youth in our communities on what we've done as veterans so they can learn from it.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize what happens. The first 2 or 3 days of war, first couple of weeks of war, everybody's got the ribbons on and, you know, support the troops, all this stuff, and then they forget about us. You know, long after, you know, football season starts and we start getting distracted by other things, we're still fighting wars. Their guys still just want to make it through the day. And I remember they used to have a saying when I was in the Navy in Norfolk. It said, the military is respected during war and forgotten during peace. Mm-hmm. But they don't realize, but even during peace, people are still fighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so often now, it's almost as if, what I feel like, and I said this in some interviews, it's almost like now we're used solely as political props. You know, we're pro-military, we're pro this, so politicians parade us out there, you know, take us to the State of the Union, let us be seen, get some claps, get some votes, and then they just leave us off to ourselves. So you'd be amazed the amount of veterans that have been brought to the White House to be put up to props to the State of the Union, and they're homeless a year later. Because as soon as the lights go off, the president forgets who they are.
I think one of the saddest things, and this is maybe a deviation, but the state of the VA hospitals and homeless American veterans, and why are American veterans not getting treated when it seems like other portions of the population are getting a fairer shake than the veterans who have kept us safe throughout history. That's just my 2 cents.
Because we rather buy the machinery to blow up and kill people than buy the machinery and the people to heal people. When I left home, I knew every time I left the base, the odds were I wasn't coming home. I knew I was probably going to die overseas, and I was okay with that because I believed in what I was fighting for. I believed if I died, I was going to die for a purpose. My only thing I ask of my country, only one thing: if you break me, heal me. That's all. Just get me back home, and if you break my mind, get me back right. If I break my arm, heal me up. That's all I ask. I don't ask for special treatment. I don't ask for accolades. I don't ask for parades. I don't ask for all this other stuff. Just if you break me, heal me, respect what I gave for you, and just give it back. That's all. Just keep me whole.
Tell us, give us we got to go to a break, but tell us what's happening this Saturday, what time, and if anybody wants to get involved or maybe contribute to this, how can they do that?
Okay, well, this Saturday, actually starting tomorrow morning, we're doing a golf outing at Top Golf. It starts at 9 a.m. to 12. And then tomorrow evening, we'll be doing a meet and greet at the Crown Plaza Hotel, starting at 6 p.m. And Saturday morning, we're having a picnic down the Indian Trail at the VFW post 2423, starting at 10 to 2. And then Saturday night is our grand finale, our Knight in Shining Armor. That's where we will induct the 22 veterans into the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And if you want, we still have tickets available to attend. You can go to our website, ncmvhof.org, and purchase a ticket. Tickets are $50 to come out and witness history being made in the state of North Carolina.
And I got, Mike, before you make a point, I got to tell my friend Colonel John Falkenberry, the USO.
Yes.
Maybe you guys can get together on that. Mike, you got a real quick word?
Yeah, just real quick. I would imagine when you came up with this idea, the support you've gotten had to have been really helpful in facilitating this. Can you talk about the kind of support along the way, since you come up with an idea, but it's got to get some traction. Talk about the people that have helped you along the way to get to this point.
Well, a lot of things that we've done to promote the awareness of what we're doing, as Mr. Wilson said, we did a walk from Fort Bragg back to Charlotte, which totaled 146 miles. And we did that over 4.5 days. And then in January, we just did a second walk from the state capitol in Raleigh back to Charlotte, which was 179 miles, and we did it in 5.5 days.
Thanks, guys. And look, remember, go to that website, contribute, help America, help their veterans, and a shout out to my friend Sergeant Tim Parker, intelligence officer in Korea, who's with Purple Heart Homes.
Yes.
So maybe we can get all these guys together. So thank you very much for your service. Thank you for getting the Hall of Fame started. Congratulations, Will, for going into the Hall of Fame. We're coming back with more Talking About Sports right here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We're going to go a full timeout. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up.
There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter.
A huge game changer.
I would have won the Powerball like 6 times.
Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. William Wilson taking David Brody outside, and we want to thank him for his service.
Absolutely.
The founder and CEO of the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame. I really like talking. Reggie, you were right off camera. I was really excited about that. I can't wait to see this come to fruition. I'm telling my good friend Colonel John Falkenberry is already a part of it. I'm going to tell my guy Tim Parker out at Purple Heart Homes that they can get involved in this. And we all have connections to the military through family or someone. Absolutely. And this is a good deal, Reg. I know when you were off camera listening to all this.
Yeah, I was, and I can only echo what you just said, and you know me, I'm always up to something. I guess Will here forgot we were live, so he just walked off.
Well,
but he'll be back. He'll be back.
You're a Hall of Famer. You can do what you want.
Well, speaking of Hall of Famers, one future Hall of Famer, or one of them, for the Golden State Warriors, a little bit of a struggle last night.
Which one?
A little bit of a struggle last night.
I think Kevin Durant's probably going. I think Steph Curry, who's from around this area, he's going.
He had a little bit of a struggle last night.
I think that's the one he's talking about.
That's the one I was referencing. He had a little bit of a struggle last night.
This series.
It's interesting what they did. I saw what Houston was doing, and they essentially they were like, we're going to make Steph guard straight line drives. And they put whoever he was guarding, they put in a pick and roll because Golden State was switching everything, and they just attacked Steph on the dribble drive.
That's usually the MO anyway when he's healthy, is to do it that way. Not that he's a terrible defender, but he's not the best.
Klay Thompson's probably their best perimeter defender. Durant right behind him. Obviously, we know what Draymond brings for that basketball team. Iguodala's another really, really good perimeter defender. So when those five are on the floor, I'm not going to say Steph's a bad defender, but of those 5, he's not the best of the 5.
Right.
Clearly. And so that's the guy you attack. But I got to think that Steve Kerr's adjustment for Game 3 is that they're not going to switch pick and rolls as much, especially when Steph's involved.
It'll be interesting. I'm more concerned about Steph on the offensive end. Just 1 3-pointer in each game. He's having a real rough time of it shooting the ball.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ariza was on him last night, right?
Yeah, well,
he's a long defender that's athletic enough to keep up with him. They're running Steph off that 3-point line. I think what Steph's got to do is be willing to take the straight line drive and take the mid-range jumpers or get all the way to the basket and finish at the rim.
In Game 1, he took it to the basket.
Right.
Not as well Game 2. But, I mean, he needs to hit the 3, and that would really put the pressure on Houston to keep up offensively.
Right. But see, I think this is where teams get in trouble with metrics and threes, is they forget if you get a couple of short jump shots because you're attacking that defender, he's got to back up, and then you can get the 3 ball off. So while I understand your point, the way to open the 3 ball up is to attack the front of the rim, attack the mid-range game, and get that defender to back up and give you space.
Yeah, they were real sloppy last night, too, the Warriors. About 13 turnovers, but they had about half of them in the first quarter.
Yeah.
They got away from them really early. And, I mean, props to the Rockets. Everybody shot them down. I'm the one that's saying the Warriors
Tucker
in
was
5.
knocking down threes. That's not what he does.
No, and they really came back to ball movement. It was really a good testament last night because after Game 1, everybody was talking about how James Harden had more dribbles than KD, Steph, and Clay combined in Game 1, and that was too isolated, and ISO ball doesn't work. Well, they did again last night, the same thing, and the ball movement was all over the place.
Right.
It's just when it's working, it looks great. D'Antoni looks like a
That's
genius.
exactly right.
When it's not working like Game 1, it's a struggle, and you look selfish, and it's all me ball.
And
That's not how it is.
And to be honest, what I would do, I shouldn't say what I would do, but one of the things I wonder from an adjustment standpoint is, does Steve Kerr go back to bringing Iguodala off the bench?
It's a thought. It's a thought. I would keep it the way it is.
I agree.
It's just one loss. It's at home. You still have the advantage now.
Don't
Houston
panic.
has to come and somehow win a game in Golden State. I don't see it happening.
I think this goes back to Houston 3-1. That's just my opinion.
I do. I agree, and I think it ends in Houston.
All right, now, all right. How many games? Who wins? Give me what you think goes down.
I'm gonna be on. I'm not as bullish on it as Freer. I'm gonna say Golden State in 6. I think when they go back to Houston, I think Harden and Houston will have one of those games where they hit 16 to 23s and just explode and find a way to stave off elimination, as a lot of teams find a way to do when they're at home, down 3-1 or down 3-0 in a series, and then they'll go back to Golden State and probably lose Game 6 by 15 plus points.
Well, I think the series is going to be Warriors in 5. I think it's going to be 3-1 going into Houston. And here's the thing with the Rockets, they got huge production from Ariza, Tucker, and Eric Gordon off the bench. They had about 40 more points in Game 2 combined than they did in Game 1.
The others.
Now, if you're a Houston Rockets fan, you need that for the rest of the series. I don't think it's going to happen.
I agree.
I think KD is too much. Steph will get it back in gear. Clay will get it back in gear. I think it's the Warriors in 5.
Wow, Warriors in 5, huh?
I said it before the series. I'll stick with it.
Yeah.
So, John Halpern's listing one to either have a prayer, Eastern Conference have a prayer. I think we'll get that in the next segment. But I think for Houston, you think last night was an aberration that Golden State's going to come back and it's over.
I do.
Okay. Well, I don't. But I think Houston's going to need everyone short of, Robert Reed, Ralph Sampson, Clyde Drexler, and Calvin Murphy. Did you see that getup Calvin Murphy was wearing? I got to get Will to get a take on what Calvin Murphy was wearing.
Can't do it with that attire.
Before. That was crazy. I worked in Houston. I met Calvin Murphy, but he wasn't wearing that. So we're going to take a break, and we'll get William Wilson back in here, and we'll talk Eastern Conference basketball. This is Talking About Sports at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah. We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports.
Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Reggie Walker and rejoined by William Wilson talking some North Carolina Military Hall of Fame business during our last segment, and Mountaineer Mike Freer. So you didn't see Calvin Murphy's getup, but we'll have to get you to maybe look at it before we sign off today and get your take on that. It was outrageous, to say the least. Eastern Conference, Mountaineer Mike. John's question, John Halpern and Charlotte, do either of the Eastern Conference teams have a prayer taking on the winner of the Western Conference?
Well, first of all, yeah, I think, and I've been saying this since December and January, and I tweeted out at World Beat Freer Sports that I think the Celtics are going to win this series. I said before this series it would be 7 games. It may end sooner than that, although I don't think it will. I think it'll go
Celtics
full
in
7.
6.
I think the Celtics have enough athletes to go at the Warriors. I think they have a great defense. They have enough scoring. It's not going to be easy by any stretch. And I think they have the best chance of taking down the Warriors. I'm assuming the Warriors are going to make it out of the West. But I think the Celtics can win it.
I don't know if the Celtics can win it, but I think they got a chance to I think it could potentially be at least a 6, probably a 7-game series, because all of the guys in Boston, much like the guys in Golden State, and we just kind of talked about this, they can generally guard their position. Now, am I suggesting that anybody can really guard Kevin Durant? That's not what I'm saying. But for the most part, they've got guys that are good enough to make it difficult on Clay and Steph and Durant without needing a double team every single time their guy catches the basketball. And I think anytime you have that and you don't have to play scramble on defense against Golden State, you got a chance. Most teams don't have more than one guy that's a two-way player, and that's the other thing. Boston's got guys. Rozier, we've seen, can score the basketball and defend his position. We know Tatum can score and defend his position. Marcus Smart has improved as a shooter, and we know he's a defender. Morris can play both ends. Al Horford can play both ends. So when you start looking at that potential matchup, because I think Boston comes out of the East. When you start looking at that matchup, you've got 2 teams full of guys that play both ends of the floor.
Yeah, and I think that you got 2 complete teams. You may have just all-out battle to the death in this. And I think it all comes down to who has the confidence. If Boston believes they can win, if Boston has as much confidence in themselves as Reggie has in their ability, Boston can absolutely beat them. I said the same thing during the Super Bowl. I said, can Philly beat Boston? Beat the Patriots. I said, yeah, they can beat them if they believe in themselves, play their game, keep doing. They can beat them, and they did. And I think Boston can do the same thing.
And listen, Tatum. People, and I know people are looking at him saying he's a rookie and this, that, and the third. Tatum is a matchup nightmare, and the main reason why he's a nightmare, obviously we know how long he is and all that, but the reason why I think he's a nightmare is because he's a kid that's not still trying to figure out what his game is. His game is what it is. All he's got to do over the next 4 or 5 years is get better at what he does. He knows what his pet move is. He knows how to get rhythm into his three-point jump shot over a defender. All of those things are not things he has to figure out.
He came into a great situation,
yes,
too.
He did.
In that he was a top draft pick, a top 5 draft pick, who wasn't expected to carry a team, which usually happens. You get a top 5 pick, you're a losing franchise, our eyes are all on you. He can play. He only averaged about 14 points a game during the regular season.
But his game is complete.
Absolutely. Yeah. He played at no point during the season when I watched all the Celtic games did I look at a kid like Jason Tatum and think, well, he's playing like he's afraid out there, like he doesn't know. He's very smooth. He's very together. I think he's an all-star in the making. And at no point, being on the Celtics, being on a winning franchise that's already successful, went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, is a huge help for him and his development.
And let me ask you this question, too, and this is what we often talk about in sports, right, with young players. What does Tatum need to add to his game to be developed? Exactly. Nothing. He's just got to get better at everything he does.
Yes.
But he doesn't need to learn how to become a better ball handler. He's a good ball handler. He doesn't need to develop a jump shot. He can shoot. He doesn't need to develop post moves. We've seen him work out of the low post. All of those things he can do. Can he be better? Yes, every player can be better. Yeah. But he already has a complete game, which most players that only play 1 year of college basketball don't have.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the Celtics are the best defensive team in the league, too. that's going to carry some weight going into the finals if they can
all
get
I'm
there.
hearing you guys talking about the Boston Celtics, this and that, and all these other guys. You guys have no faith in the best player in the league, arguably the best player ever, LeBron James, who could be
Best player?
He could be the MVP every year.
Because it's best player versus best team.
I know.
It's still a team
that's
competition.
the
Man,
problem.
I'm just saying, he's
check my
putting them on
Twitter.
his back, and he's saying that well, they're not out yet.
I said
I didn't say they were out.
I'm just saying.
I think they're going to win the next 2 games at home.
And plus, remember, Kevin, the question you asked was, can Boston win it?
I don't
you didn't
remember a
ask
lot of the things I asked.
Yeah,
Well, that's a personal problem.
Yeah, you asked us if Boston can win. We're answering your question. Now, don't get upset when we answer
No,
the
I'm
question.
not upset. I'm just wondering. I'm just saying I got.
And let me make this point
I like
about LeBron.
James. I think the guy's good, and I think his cast around him, albeit mostly jabronis, but there are some good guys that can do some good things.
But listen what
They
you
haven't done it yet, though.
But listen what you just said. We just talked about a complete team, and then a guy who's got a couple good guys, and by your own words, a bunch of jabronis.
Okay,
listen.
A bunch of jabronis will
But-
never beat a fully complete team.
They wouldn't beat him with Kyrie Irving and the white guy. What's his name?
Gordon Hayward.
Wow.
Gordon Hayward. They wouldn't beat him with them.
LeBron-
I know that.
Le-
But then
LeBron
they
is
would be a bunch of jabronis, then, would they?
Right. LeBron is the best player in the world.
And he's gotten the jabronis to play like a good team.
And I also said before game 2, check my Twitter at rwalk13. Check my Twitter. I said before game 2, LeBron is going to have a 35-plus point triple-double. The question is, will his guys defend and play both ends of the floor for 48 minutes for them to get the win? Clearly, the answer was no. I don't think LeBron is the problem. Most of us realize LeBron is not the problem. But this is a team game. And if you look at the 4 teams that are still left in the NBA playoffs, there are 3 really, really good teams with depth, etc. But the 2 teams that most people think are not going to advance have what? Less depth. When you look at Houston, you see Chris Paul, you see James Harden. You can insert another player, maybe Eric Gordon's name in there, Clint Capella maybe.
After Eric
and
Gordon,
after
that's
that,
it.
it kind of stops.
Yes.
When you look at Cleveland, you say LeBron James, Kevin Love, and then it kind of stops. When you look at Boston, you can go a little bit further down the list, and when you go Golden State, you can go all the way down to damn
Does
Russ.
Nene still play?
He played game 1, but not a whole lot. He's
I'm
not
just
there.
wondering. I think the Western Conference
Nene is
Finals-
176 years old. That's a Coming to America reference if
he's
you
still
didn't get
younger
it.
than me, so he's not that old.
Yeah, you said it best with the Cavs. though. The Cavs are getting no help. Here are the players, some of the guys who are getting no help that they were hoping for. Jeff Green, nothing.
Who?
Kyle Korver, nothing. J.R. Smith is a disaster in these conference finals.
But you know what?
Jordan Clarkson's about 115.
J.R. Smith is going to give you one game where he hits about 7 threes, and everybody goes, "Yeah, that's the J.R. we've been looking for."
I mean, Jordan
and then he'll
Clarkson.
disappear for 8 more games.
Jordan Clarkson, nothing.
Jordan Clarkson
Larry Nance,
may as well be
nothing.
Kelly Clarkson so far.
Rodney Hood, nothing.
What,
These
you
are-
know what my nickname for Jeff Green is? Flash. Because once every 30 games, he flashes greatness, and then he
Flashes
disappears. Flash Green.
Here's a quick thing. Here's a quick number on why the Cavs are down 2-0 to the Celtics. Against the Raptors in the conference semifinals, they shot 60%. I'm going to get all analytical here, BS about it, but from the corner threes, they shot 60%, which is ridiculous. They were 10 of 12 from the left corner on threes. The Cavs were against the Raptors. Blew away the Raptors. They're 1 for 10 on the corner three so far in 2 games, and they haven't hit one from the left
Not
corner.
to mention, you
If
said-
can't shoot, you're not going to win.
You said 10 of 12 in 4 games and 1 of 10 in 2 games. Math, people. Math.
I wasn't good at math. I was, in fact, back
You
in
can
college,
figure that one out.
I was only as good as the person next to me.
You can
We're
figure
clear
that
because
one
you
out.
blow through more stop signs from Kevin Tolbert than anybody has ever seen.
Well,
so we know you ain't good with math.
That's thanks a lot for about piling on, guys. I appreciate that. I still think the Western Conference Finals may as well be the NBA Finals. So that's
A lot of people feel that way.
take that for what it's worth. Now we're gonna go to
You
break.
play to win the game.
There is a team in Charlotte. You probably have forgotten about them lately because they haven't been in the playoffs. They're called the Charlotte Hornets. They got new management, new GM guy, and maybe the draft lottery is set. They're going to pick 11th, I believe, Mountaineer Mike.
Yeah,
So-
magic number.
Well, we'll see about that. So
Not.
we're going to come back and we're going to talk Charlotte Hornets basketball right here on Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey along with Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson, and Reggie Walker. Hornets have a new coach in James Borrego, picking 11th in the upcoming draft. Last year they got Will's guy Malik Monk from Arkansas. Didn't do so well, but maybe I'm hearing one of the mock drafts said they're going to get some swingman from Kentucky. That's all they need, Mountaineer Mike. I don't know. Do you want to move up? Maybe move back? What's the strategy if you're the Charlotte Hornets?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they'd like to move up. I just don't know what they can do to move up. Maybe
our pick and what's his name, Batum, and move up to 2 or 3, right?
If you can find a sucker to do that, by all means,
ain't
go right
nobody
ahead.
doing that.
It isn't going to happen. They even acknowledged this week they're stuck with the lineup. They said they're confident they're going to stay with the lineup they have. That means we're stuck with them.
Here's what I'll say.
That's what it means. I think they'll end up picking 11, and Reggie has been adamant about this for a long time now, about freshmen, about potential. When they're picking number 11, I don't know where they're going to find anything but a potential guy.
And see, I disagree. And the reason why I say that is because older players, once they're 3 or 4 years in college, they're considered guys that don't get picked as high. I would hope, if for their sake, if McCall Bridges from Villanova falls to them, that should be the pick at number 11. Here's why.
I've heard he's going to go higher. But
he probably will. And here's why. You know why he's going to go high?
A lot of Europeans.
Because he can already shoot.
Yeah, that's right.
He can already attack the basket. He can defend multiple positions. He can handle the basketball. And he plays hard consistently.
And he's been there a while.
His game is complete. That's the problem.
Zeller plays hard, but that doesn't help a lot of times.
Right, because his game is not complete. What the Hornets need is a guy that has a complete game that they can plug into a role that they need to fill and get consistent production. What they don't need is a guy that they say, well, we like this guy. I'm going to use Malik Monk as an example. We like Malik Monk. He's kind of small as a 2-guard, so he's going to have to work on his ball handling. That means don't pick him because he can't do what you need him to do. That's what they got to understand.
If I'm the Hornets, if I can't, I trade out of the first round altogether.
I agree.
completely trade out of the third round.
And trade for next year's first round pick from somebody.
I wouldn't trade for the first round in the next 2 years. You need to start putting together complete players.
You want a veteran. You want to trade the pick for a veteran.
Well, veterans or just, even if not a veteran, I want a 3 or 4 year guy. I want a guy that I know when he walks on the field, on the court,
he can make an impact.
I know what I'm dealing with. I know he can build it. I need some fundamental pieces. We keep trying to say we're going to draft this guy in a top 5 pick or whatever,
and hope.
Then hope. You got the guy who played a year in college, and then when he doesn't produce, he's not LeBron James or Kyrie Irving after a year. It's a bust. That's ridiculously stupid, and that's why some people should talk about sports and never own businesses. Because if you ran businesses like you wanted to run sports franchises, you'd be bankrupt, broken on the street. Because you try to look to long term. You don't play one season at a time. You build a program over time, so when you start winning, you can consistently win.
That's right.
And you do that with guys that can win over and over, guys that you know what you're dealing with. You don't draft 3 guys who were all in high school 2 years ago at their prom and hope they can go and beat the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets and the Boston Celtics of the league. It's just not going to happen. The experience isn't there. The judgment isn't there. You got 3 guys trying to figure out their butt from a hole in the ground. Marcus Monk, Malik's brother, lived with him this year, so he got hit with so much stuff. When you're a rookie in the NBA, you're hit with so much stuff. You're trying to figure out basketball, figure out your life, figure out the world, all this stuff combined. And now you got the whole weight of a franchise on your shoulders.
And all of a sudden you got more money than you've ever seen.
Yeah, and then if you don't produce in 6 weeks, you're done.
You're in the G League.
Yeah, now all of a sudden you're a bust, and every time you read the papers, you're being trashed all over the place. No, I wouldn't. If I'm the Hornets, unless there's just somebody special that we're gonna get, and if you're doing it right, you'll never be there for that special person. I'm picking all second-round guys for the next 3 years, and in 6 years, we're perennially on top. We're one of those Golden State type players for the next 6 years after that.
For a moment there, I thought Todd Bodine was here because there's about to be a big crash out front of the
we almost saw a casualty. That's what we almost saw.
Yeah.
Will gets what I'm saying. So I think you'll find some takers. There may be a team that has 3 2s that may want to move in and see a guy at 11, and then you get some second-round picks, which are not guaranteed, but they are. You can get 4-year guys like from the smaller schools, or maybe. And I like the guy. He's not going to be there, but as an example, a 4-year guy who graduated in 3. The point guard at Villanova,
Jalen Brunson. He might be there at 11.
He'll be there, but I mean,
he'll be there at 11.
You can get some guys in the second round that are going to be contributors that'll help you bridge the gap until they get to maybe some sort of relevancy.
Yeah, and you build your San Antonio Spurs, your team.
That's
You
right.
they may not
Lots
be
of
sexy.
second-round guys
Yeah.
and late first-round guys.
Yeah, they may not be sexy. They may be not be flashy. You got the big fundamental, but when you put hanging trophies, hanging banners in the rafters, there's nothing sexier than
All right,
winning.
Danny Green
That's
was a
it.
second-round pick. Sean Elliott was a late first-round pick. Manu Ginobili was a second-round pick.
I believe
Tony
Avery
Parker, a
Johnson
late
was
first-round
undrafted.
pick. Avery Johnson was undrafted. The only two lotteries we've had since the 80s, I believe, are David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
So wait a minute, can't I just draft the guy at number 11 with the best potential and let the Spurs coach develop them? Because that's all the Spurs do is they develop all the talent. Let them go in and develop all these guys.
I don't have time to wait on him to get good.
Like-
That's my point. As a fan, I don't have time to wait for you to get good. If you listen, if you are a first-round pick, you should be able to come to your franchise and make an impact immediately. I should not be waiting for you to 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
If
That's
you're a Hornets
ridiculous.
fan, you have nothing but time right now. You're not going anywhere.
Well,
not with this roster.
But you know, if you-
I'm not
if you-
spending my money on that.
If you bring in 3 or 4 4-year guys that can play, they know how to play as a team, you can change the whole look of your team in a year if you get enough of the right pieces, and then all of it flows together. All the pressure's not on 1 or 2 people. The Hornets could be a completely different franchise in 18, 19, if they do things right this offseason. Now, they're going to be winning, a championship? No. But they start seeing consistency. You start seeing the holes start to get filled. You start depending on the same 2 guys that we're bitching and moaning about every week for 82 games.
All right. Be that as it may, we'll leave it there with the Hornets. Coming back, we're going to talk some. We're going to keep this segment. All right. I've been told that since I'm not paying attention, we're going to talk some NASCAR here. Will,
Told you blowing through stop
I
signs.
don't know. He was telling me. I thought we
I don't
were
wanna
going to
hear
have a whole
that.
segment dedicated to this.
Kevin just blew through his pit box.
Because it should be. Well, I mean, I got to do a stop through pass through penalty. Will
Yep,
All-Star
figures.
race after your North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame induction. You're heading over in a rental car. You're the superstar of rental car now because you're getting a new engine. You have to go to the tail end of the longest line. You're going to the All-Star race.
To the street. Want me to tell people when I go to the toilet too?
You're going to the All-Star race. By the way, who you like? Is Kurt Busch your guy going to win? And you're going to give the guy a new jacket, a new gold jacket at the All-Star race, right?
Man, the All-Star race is just different, and they got restrictor plates this year.
I know.
So that changes everything. So they're going to be a lot tighter
Back racing.
field. Yeah, they're going to be back to racing. Pit stops are going to be at a premium. So now you got restrictor plates at Charlotte, these extended pit stops.
But they've never had a restrictor plate at a 1.5 mile track, have they? It's usually Talladega and Daytona.
Right. That's what I said. We got new.
Okay.
Stay with me. I said new, which means it wasn't done before.
I think some of the pack drivers, Austin Dillon is a guy races well with the restrictor plates.
Yeah, but we don't know who races well in this kind of restrictor plate situation because, we're used to Daytona and Talladega. We're used to that. A small track like this with restrictor plates, we don't know what we're dealing with.
Couldn't hear you. The sirens are going on.
I'm just saying we're not used to.
I know.
We don't know. There's no notes on this. So this is going to make this really, really exciting. And so it's really, and everybody that's in the All-Star race, All-Star race because you want to race.
Checkers and records, man.
Are you
I
a
think
fan of
that's
it this way or not a fan?
I think that's a
I love
very
it.
interesting point that you just made because I think people lose track of all of the information that goes on and that is communicated back and forth during a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
And for once, they're walking into a track in a situation where they don't have information. This is going to be very interesting to watch how adjustments are made throughout the race because they don't have any information, which is a complete departure from what they've ever been used to really in the history of racing. Most of these tracks they go to each year, the weather patterns may be a little bit different depending on what it's going on, but generally they go to the same tracks around the same times a year every year, so they know what to expect. They don't know what to expect because, like you said, restrictor plates at Charlotte for the first time. That's different. That's really going to be interesting.
That, and we're talking about, all the weather. It's supposed to be raining all on this weekend too. So there's a really good chance they're racing on a green track. And for you who don't know, a green track means all the rubber's been washed off of it. So you're probably going to have a competition caution somewhere in there just so people can figure out what they're dealing with. I mean, this is going to be a flying blind racetrack.
Explain to the fans who's eligible. Like, why are these guys in here? You have to want to race the previous year, a pole, or a previous champion or something?
You had to be a previous champion, won a race this year or last, I think since the last All-Star race. I get mixed up on some of them. There's also the fan vote in, and I know that the year Danica won the pole at Daytona, they suddenly changed the rule. If you get the win of pole at Daytona, you get in the All-Star race as well. So really, these are the guys that are won races, that are consistently winning, that are good drivers.
Former winner of this race or former series champion?
Former series champion.
Okay, so Michael Waltrip can't get in because he won the All-Star race back in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He's a good restricted plate racer.
He may be right. I may be wrong, but I don't think a previous winner is a
now. So basically, you're either a fast guy on a pole, or you've won a race, and that tells me you've been on a good team. Joe Gibbs, RCR, Hendrick, Ganassi.
They're the same 5 guys who win every race.
So these are guys that don't worry about wrecking cars.
Wait a minute.
Got plenty.
So you mean NASCAR's like the NBA?
Oh yeah. Well, you gotta look at it. You look at of the 20 guys that are eligible, they all come from 4 teams.
No, I'm with you.
All right, my point in saying that is, these are guys that they're not going to get a bunch of static back at the shop because they wrecked the car, because there's plenty more where they came from.
No. This is the All-Star race.
So they're going all out to win. It's millions of dollars on the line.
This is not a points race. This checkers a record. The only position that matters is first. So this is truly a Ricky Bobby type situation. If you're not first, you're last. Finishing second in the All-Star race means nothing.
And everybody likes money, so they all want it.
Yeah. So if you bring the car home on a flatbed with a checkered flag,
nobody cares.
Is that where $1 Million Bill got the name?
Yep.
Because he got the $1 million bonus.
Yeah, the first $1 million bonus for the All-Star race. Yep.
Reg, you got an opinion like who may win or anything?
I see.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s not racing.
Well, no. I know that. The problem with making a prediction is I can't look at the history of who's done well here with the restrictor plates because there's no information.
Right. Alan Dietz, our friend.
So I'm going to trust Will, a former pit crew guy,
champion,
and roll with Kurt Busch.
Okay,
that's what I'm going to do.
Alan Dietz just chimed in and said he does not think that the plates are going to have that dramatic an influence, but he says it will slow the speeds down. Maybe keep them into the packs.
But that's going to have a dramatic influence.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, nobody knows how it's going to impact at this track because it's never been done here.
Yeah, because you got to remember that dog ear in turn 4 when new tires start to wear out. A lot of guys, there could be a lot of wrecked cars coming out of 3
and going into 4
before you get to the old quad oval.
Alan does a great job with all of our short tracks out at Concord's Motorsports Park. Where's that other one? Lakeview Speedway in South Carolina. Alan does a great job out there.
Alan is a great racing guy. He's a racer's announcer.
I love that. I like all the stuff. I remember the Easter Bunny 150. But anyway, Mike, you know any race car drivers? Racing used to be big up in the Northeast, man.
Yeah, it still is. But I will
modifies and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I will defer to William on this one here, or to you as far as
America. Y'all are witnessing for the first time. Normally, I'm having to defer to everybody else because they're talking all this technical stuff that I don't know. Now they're in Daddy's house.
Right, so whoa. You can hold off on that daddy line. We might be in your wheelhouse, but I ain't calling nobody daddy.
I appreciate that.
I'm a junior. I don't know. We ain't going there, player. Yeah. Nope.
Let's be careful here. We're not talking about you splitting the atom here.
Name a guy on the circuit that's in the race. We'll tell you if he's in the race or not. Just name a guy that
you know what? Joey Logano's going to have an impact in this thing.
I think he's going to
he always does a great job. But again, it's just so hard to really hone in on anybody because there's no history to look at. There's no track record in this particular environment.
I take it Alan Dietz says that it'll be mediocre performances from the Hendrick cars. So I don't think, and I'm with him there, I don't think a Hendrick car, unless it's somebody gifts wrecks on the last lap, a Hendrick car gets into victory lane.
I don't know, man. Chase Elliott runs consistently pretty good.
He's due.
Alec, you're never doing racing. That's a stick and ball sport.
I think this is the kind of race that Chase Elliott could win, though.
This is an all-star race. This kind of race, no matter who you name, could win.
Listen, bro, if $1 million's on the line, might do something a little different in the car.
Oh, they're going to do something different.
They're going to do something different.
There going to be some guys, there going to be a lot of blocking. There's going to be some cutting off. When it's $1 million, that last
Didn't
stage.
Austin Dillon get a bunch of static about wrecking a guy at Daytona?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was a Bush League move.
I mean, so
that wasn't racing. That was trash. And he just happy Richard Childress is his granddaddy.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. used to say, he'd say that's racing, man.
No, but No, that
Man.
was a trash.
No, that
that
was
was
Just
a
wonder,
trash
he just was
move.
trying to
That
rattle
was a
his
Bush
cage
League
a little
move.
bit.
That was Bush League.
No,
Now you said you like the way the setup is this year, the way the changes have been made.
I believe
Do you
so.
think
Yeah.
this is good for racing? Is it good for?
I think anything that makes it that allows me to enjoy the entire race, not the first 5 laps and the last 25 laps, and the 3 laps going to the stages is good, because I love racing and I can't watch a whole race now. So breaking this up like this, keeping it packed, the races I can watch, I can watch Talladega and I can watch Daytona because they stay close together. Someone's leading on lap 1, they're in 27th on laps 10, and they're in 5th place in lap 37. I love that.
Could be the last pit stop that could determine this race, Will.
It can be.
Well,
It can be. I mean, literally, no matter what scenario you bring up, it's possible at the All-Star race. It's no holds barred, baby.
Well, if it comes down to like a last-minute move, then it could be a Bush League move. It could be a Bush brother. It may be Austin Dillon wrecking another guy on the backstretch on the last lap.
But doing that in the All-Star race isn't a Bush League move.
No.
Because it's all or nothing. Every driver would understand that. Doing that in a points race
Is a problem.
is a problem.
that's when you get the Allison brothers on the backstretch and Cale Yarborough, and we're going to go fight.
That's when your Matt Kenseth decide to just jump out the back corner and jump over Logano.
Leave your helmet on, by the way. That's what Jeff Gordon did at Bristol that year.
Yeah, you ain't stupid.
Well, Kevin Tolman, are we going to go into final thoughts here, or are we going to go to a break? All right. I like Keselowski because he's a guy that's kind of crazy that he will wreck you if need be. But watch out for
Yeah.
Kyle Busch and Joe
My
Gibbs.
boy Kurt. I want to put a jacket on my boy Kurt.
All right, we'd like
I
to
put
see that
jackets
too.
on Kyle and all these guys.
Definitely
already.
want to see that. We're coming back with more Talking About Sports right here at the Dork Neighborhood Grill. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. Time for our final thoughts. Reggie Walker, what do you have down there?
I'm going to go boxing.
Your man Lemchenko did it.
Vasily Lomachenko got the win. Came up to 135. Now is a titleist in his third weight class. He's still at the top of most pound-for-pound rankings. I just saw ESPN put out their top 10.
I forwarded it to you.
You shared it as well. The thing that's most interesting to me, there's 3 welterweights that are all undefeated in the top 10. You got Thurman, Bud Crawford, a.k.a. Terrence Crawford, and you got Errol Spence Jr. I think Errol Spence is the best of the 3. But the thing I like about it is all 3 of those guys have talked about facing each other, so we're going to see them clean up that division. And another thing that I thought was interesting, Anthony Joshua holds 3 belts at the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He is not in the top 10. His potential opponent, Deontay Wilder, is. So I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out. So I think the back half of 2018 could be a really, really good time for boxing if the best fights get made.
There is an open date
and
in
take
November.
the politics out of it. Absolutely correct.
All right, Will.
Mine, we're talking about my golf tournaments coming up this week. Coming up Monday, the Clothier Classic. The kickoff party is Sunday night. Tickets are still available. $100 for the ticket to the party, $200 to play in the tournament. We're raising money for domestic violence, a scholarship to send kids to school, domestic violence survivors or children of survivors, to go to trade school, VOTEC, anything. It's not just for college. It's anything like this. We need your help. My mom's a domestic violence survivor. She's divorced and remarried now, so her situation is better. But the leading cause of death in females in America is domestic violence, more than cancer or anything like this combined.
Wow.
So I need you guys' help to help me fight domestic violence. So just go to clothierclassic.com, buy a ticket to play in a tournament, come to the party, or just make a donation. Every little bit helps.
Now, Will, besides all those great things you mentioned, if you're a young person or any kind of person, you want to go and network and meet some great people, see people like Jay Harris and some celebrities, you can talk to them off the record and privately. It's a good chance to talk to some people that you've seen on TV, or some athletes, some professionals, and network and market and meet some new people.
Exactly. You know, the industry professionals, like one of my guys, J. Alexander Martin, one of the guys who founded FUBU, who shipped $6 billion worth of products. If people want to get to the fashion industry, he's right there, and you can just talk to him. And you know, these guys are all friends of mine. They're not highfalutin, act like they're better than anybody else. They sit right next to you and talk to you. So you can network with them, business leaders, industry leaders, and just have a good time and do some good.
All right, Mountaineer Mike.
My final thought is I'll revisit our opening topic, the soon-to-be legalization of sports gambling in this country. We had a nice debate about how it impacts pro sports, the potential corruption that could occur with players. I personally don't think it's going to be as big a deal in the professional level, but what I will say is be careful how the NCAA treats this new rule or new law once it comes about, because since they're not getting paid, these scholar athletes aren't getting paid, the temptation and the ease in which it could happen is something that could be a problem. And if you want to pay attention to this law going forward, look at it on the collegiate end.
Amen.
I want to echo Will's, the Clother Classic. I played my first one last year. I had a great time at the banquet. Got to meet a bunch of great people. Last year, Dominic Santana from All Eyes on Me was there. What a great guy. All these people. Jay Harris, got to meet him, and we did something with him the next day at the tournament. That was such a great event. Make sure you go to, what's the website again, Will?
Clothierclassic.com.
And log on and get more information. Now, my final thought, I'm not a hockey guy by any means, but I love it, and I love it this time of year with the playoffs. Unfortunately, Kevin Tolbert and I, our favorite team, the Chicago Blackhawks, are not in it this year, but we'll be back next year. But what a great story, the Vegas Golden Knights. They're in it. And what a production they put on before the show. The introduction is mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. And the team that I grew up closest to, I think you did too, Reggie, the Washington Capitals have finally gotten further than they have so far in a year, and since Rod Langway in those days.
I didn't grow up there. I finished high school there. Two different things.
You grew up. You spent some time there.
Yeah, that's fair.
They don't have no hockey out in Memphis, do they? Not any
Nashville
pro hockey.
Predators, closest thing, baby.
All right, well, they're
Go
out.
Preds.
They're too busy drinking beer out of catfishes.
Shout out to my man Jim Dittman, the technical director for the Vegas Golden Knights.
That they are a world that they put on a show like Cirque du Soleil or whatever. That is a show. It is Vegas style entertainment, and Vegas, I think they could be. They're looking good right now. I think they're up in the
two wins away.
They're 2 wins away from the Stanley Cup, and I hope the Caps get there as well. So for our executive producer, Kevin Tolbert, Reggie Walker, William Wilson, Mountaineer Mike Freer, I'm Kevin Casey. This has been Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.